You have a 500-watt appliance, and you want to run it on solar. The math seems completely straightforward. You buy a single 585-watt panel, plug it into an inverter, and you have 85 watts to spare. But that 585-watt rating is a theoretical ceiling. Manufacturers calculate that number using standard test conditions, which means testing the panel inside a highly controlled, climate-regulated laboratory locked at exactly 25 degrees Celsius. Your roof is not a climate-controlled laboratory. When the ambient air outside is 30 degrees Celsius, those dark solar cells are actively absorbing the sun's radiation. The physical surface of the panel bakes at 50 degrees or higher. This graph shows exactly what that heat does to your power. Every single degree your panel heats up past that 25-degree lab baseline triggers a temperature coefficient penalty. The hotter the silicon gets, the less efficiently it converts sunlight into electricity, physically forcing your output curve away from that 585-watt sticker rating. By the time you reach peak afternoon heat with perfectly clear skies, the physical properties of the cells limit their output. That 585-watt panel will max out at roughly 420 watts of actual power. Sizing your inverter or planning your battery load based on the nameplate guarantees a system crash. When you hit peak summer heat, the hardware simply won't have the energy input it was promised. To design a system that actually works, we have to stop looking at momentary peak wattage. The metric that dictates your hardware choice is daily energy yield, the total units of power generated from sunrise to sunset. That 420-watt peak only occurs during a narrow window around midday. Generation starts at a slow trickle in the morning, gradually ramps up, and tapers off just as slowly in the late afternoon. When you map that entire curve under standard, clear spring conditions, a single 585-watt panel produces an average of 3.3 usable units of AC power, or kilowatt-hours, per day. Zooming out to a full month, you have to account for rainy afternoons and overcast mornings. Factoring in those weather losses, that single panel yields about 80 to 85 usable units every 30 days. Understanding this 3.3-unit daily ceiling prevents you from expecting a single panel system to sustain heavy 24-hour loads. No matter how large the peak rating of your inverter is, it can only deliver the energy volume that the panels actually collect. The lowest cost entry point into solar assumes you already have a legacy battery UPS system. To build this setup, you only need to purchase two items, a single solar panel and an MPPT charge controller to link that panel directly to your existing UPS battery. The workflow here is sequential. The solar panel spends the daylight hours trickling charge into your battery. You keep your grid connection shut off during the day, then use that stored solar power to run your loads later. This setup requires compromises. Legacy UPS systems often use modified sine waves, which waste a portion of your solar power. Furthermore, you become the system's brain, manually throwing changeover switches to route power as the battery level changes. The UPS retrofit trades financial cost for operational friction. It is for those willing to actively manage power routing to keep upfront costs at minimum. If you don't own a battery and want to run appliances directly from the sun while it's shining, you move up to the mid-budget tier. You pair your single panel with a 2.8 kilowatt batteryless inverter. Solar energy flows directly into the inverter and straight to your appliances, completely bypassing storage. By cutting out the battery bank, you avoid the massive upfront capital expense and the cost of replacing degraded batteries a few years down the line. The vulnerability here is the lack of a power buffer. If a heavy cloud passes over your house, your panel output drops instantly and the entire system shuts down. To keep appliances running through those weather events, you must monitor the sky and manually switch the system back to grid power before output drops. The batteryless tier saves significant money up front, but you are paying for that discount with the time required to monitor the weather and intervene manually. When your goal is to run continuous loads, like a refrigerator that cycles 24 hours a day plus several fans, you move to the premium tier. This setup requires at least 4 full-size panels to generate the total energy volume needed to sustain a refrigerator's daily cycle alongside household fans, paired with a true hybrid inverter rated for 4 kilowatts. This hardware tier provides real-time sharing, which eliminates manual intervention. If your appliance requires 1,000 watts, but clouds force solar output down to 200 watts, the inverter instantly detects the deficit. It pulls the exact 800-watt difference from the grid to fill the gap. Because this automation happens in milliseconds, your appliances never lose power. You never have to throw a changeover switch or check the weather before using a fan. Committing high upfront capital to a 4-kilowatt hybrid system is the only way to buy absolute operational convenience and eliminate friction of daily power management. This flowchart determines your hardware path. If your budget exceeds $2,000, go straight to the 4-kilowatt hybrid hub. If not, look at existing gear. If you own a battery UPS, follow the MPPT retrofit path. With no backup, build the batteryless direct system. Avoid cross-tiering your equipment. Running heavy automated loads on a basic retrofit system will likely trigger a low-voltage shutdown, while connecting 4 premium panels to a cheap batteryless inverter wastes most of your generation potential. If you work away from home during the day or refuse to manually flip electrical switches when it gets cloudy, avoid the budget tiers. You need to save your money and wait until you can finally afford the fully automated hybrid hub. Regardless of the tier, physics still applies. If you ignore fundamental installation rules, like failing to face panels true south or allowing shadows to cast across the roof, you will never reach that 3.3 unit daily average. Success in solar engineering depends on matching your upfront capital to your personal tolerance for daily operational friction.